G'day and welcome to the next chapter of Tech Adept Crafts. Today we are looking at this amazing piece of scenery. It is designed by Ian Lovecraft from Lovecraft Designs, and it is a special TAC exclusive for his upcoming Feywood campaign that he is running at My Mini Factory. This model is available on Patreon pretty much right now as you're seeing this. So if you are interested in downloading this and printing it yourself, join us on Patreon. That is www.patreon.com/techadeptcrafts. In the Patreon, we're also teaming up with the Giant's Tower. David down there at the Giant's Tower is based in Malta, and if you would like to get this printed professionally, that is an option for patrons to be able to get that printed through the Giant's Tower for a fairly reasonable price, and shipping, he keeps the shipping as low as he possibly can as well, so that's wonderful. So check that out through Patreon as well. So if you want to see some more photos and see other things that we're working on here at TAC, come and join us over at our account on Instagram. That is Tech Adept Crafts on Instagram. And you can also join us at patreon.com/techadeptcrafts and become a sponsor of this channel and be eligible to download these amazing models and print them for yourself. Sit back, enjoy the tutorial, and we'll see you briefly at the end of the video. Cheers.
I want to thank Michael over at Fluoro Sound for the music of the intro, which he designed for me this past week. Really great to have that sort of support. And I'll put a link for Fluoro Sound in the description. All the stonework, I start with a grey base. This is my standard mix of plain craft paint, white and black. I'm then adding timber beam, which is a really nice wooden colour, great for painting any sort of cut wood. Don't worry about it being neat for your first one or two colours because they can easily blend over to cover your white undercoat. Speaking of white, we're now using white with just a little bit of that timber beam to paint over all of this marble work. Never painted marble before and I didn't like this one, so we're going to do it again later. Using that same mix of white with timber beam, dry brush over all of the timber work that you've got there. We're now going to use the timber beam just to pick out individual bricks in that stonework. You can use a broad range of colours to do your stones because there's so many different colours out there in nature. I've seen people use blues, turquoise, some purples, and you know what, at the end, once you've done that dry brush of grey over the top and a bit of a wash, they all tie together, so it really doesn't matter. Using Star Anise or a burnt umber over all of the wooden structural supports, all of the balustrades there for the bridge and for the tree itself. Back to our timber beam, that's going now on the boardwalk and on the dais. Having the cut timber a lighter colour really does set it off. Dry brushing a grey over the balustrades just to show some weathering and make it a little bit less neat. I go through a number of colours on the dry brushing for the tree. This is putting some grey onto it, but then there's also the timber colours, and at one point I even go and put a little bit of purple on the underneath sides just to give some variety to that wood shade. Going back and dry brushing over the timber beam with a mix of the timber beam and white, and that really makes these pieces pop. So at this point I haven't given up on the white marble. I am going in and putting a bit of a wash using timber beam onto the white and trying to get like different shades in there and then stippling over it with white again. Seasoned Acorn, the next of the brown colours to use on the base for the stones and for the stone blocks themselves. I have a lot of comments about why am I using the big pots of paints. They're cheap, they're good coverage, and they last a long time. Now painting the ironwork. I tried using a very simple craft paint to go over that, and it really didn't work, so I've repainted those black, and that will then help me get a really good coverage later. I'll go over again with that silver. You may have seen in the intro the pictures of the trees and the little fairy house that was from the Forest Bundle by Ian Lovecraft. Well, I tried out some new techniques for painting the foliage that I'm trying here. So these ones, I'm using the airbrush, and I am layering so many different shades of green in there. I won't go through and label all the colors because they'll be in the description. But I worked on darker colors pointing upwards, lighter colors pointing downwards, and then masses and masses of just extra shades in there. This lovely moss color that I'm using here on the scroll work on the dais, I again used greens in the stone that I did for the fairy circle and for the Druidic stonework that was in that, and I've now carried that over here, and then towards the center of each of the scrolls I will then work it up to almost a white to make it look as though they're almost glowing. And you can see me coming back to the canopy, and what I do is I use a wash, a brown wash mixed with some green, and put that into there to give some shadow underneath, dry brushing over the top once that's dry using a multitude of different greens. I think in the end I must have used somewhere between 15 to 20 different shades of green. This Liquitex green ink that I'm using here is they're beautiful inks and shades that I have found, and they're what I also use to create the brown wash and the black wash. So to rework the iron, I have started with a black mixed with silver, and then dry brushing over with the silver to give a number of gradients of that ironwork. You can see it really starts to shine in the middle. Comparing to where I've done an extra layer of highlighting and dry brushing, you can see that difference. Use the full silver, putting some lines down through the middle, not on the whole piece, but just down through the middle of those pieces and on the edge of the rim. It'll make them really sparkle. It's time to wash things brown. And now for something completely different. A new art store. These four colours are what I'm attempting for the new marble effect. So I'm trying out the various different colours in different places on the stairs and seeing how they go. They will get a black wash, and they will get a dry brush of light grey. More greens for the canopy. You want to put as many colours as you can into that, because when you look at a tree, it's not one colour. This was a mistake I used to always make, and a lot of people still do. I'm using the lime green though now to put an effect on the actual boardwalk where there's the runic inscriptions. The blue I'm using now in combination with silver, with chainmail silver from Citadel, and it's trying to mimic the fact that I'm going to have the light in there. I thought some gold would actually really top this off. So I use one of my favorite gold colors there from Games Workshop and put some highlights in there. Again, back to that canopy, adding more shading and highlighting. Now I do prefer the look of Agrax Earthshade over the top of the gold, so I'm using that here instead of my brown wash mix. And while I had it out, I'm using it to put an extra layer of shading on the posts for that dais, just for some variation. More dry brushing over all of the wood to start to bring out the details. Dry brushing over all of the stone with a light grey, and that just ties all of those colours back together now. You can see there the difference with a part that's been shaded and a part that hasn't. Once that wood has been washed, you'll need to go back over and do another layer of dry brushing. I'm using some of that timber beam and white to dry brush onto the stone, just to give a different effect to the dirt in this one. I'm now actually very happy with how the marble that I've chosen, it's not only a marble, but that sort of stone that I'm choosing to do on the steps, how that has come out. Highlighting the gold. This beautiful shiny gold that is from Games Workshop really brings out the detail and just gives it an extra layer. Some fine highlighting on the actual final piece of the canopy. bring out the highlight even more by adding some silver to the gold and then highlight that gold trim. Then apply the same principle by adding some white or a little bit of the blue to silver and just do the edges of that iron work, the ones that are going to be facing the light. Just giving those rivets a touch with the silver, and then I'm going to highlight the edges of those planks with a little mix of the timber beam and a little bit of blue. This just gives the impression of some of the light from that lamp hitting the wood. While I'm continuing on there with some final highlighting and dry brushing of the model, I'd like to say thank you to Kayla for creating the LED light that goes in the lamp. Big thank you to Michael at Fluoro Sound for the intro music. Thank you to Joel for helping do some extra printing at the beginning and doing some testing so we could have several prints going concurrently. And finally, a massive thank you again to Ian over at Lovecraft Designs for your continued support in setting up this Patreon and for the continued support of the hobby.
There you have it. There's the tutorial for painting the Ender Watch. If you like that, make sure you join us over on Patreon. Don't forget to click like, click subscribe so that you never miss another episode of Tech Addict Crafts, and leave a comment down the bottom as to what you thought about it or what color foliage you might like to paint your canopy. We tried printing this on several different printers to get an idea of, will it print on higher quality, will it print on lower quality, what sort of speed settings can we push it to. This was printed on my old 2nd generation Cocoon from Aldi. Not as good as the Ender, but it still works beautifully. I'm going to paint this one up as an autumn tree with all sorts of oranges and yellows, and oh, I can't wait to do this one as well. Really great to have everybody on board, and I welcome us into this new chapter of TAC. Let's go and build something and have fun. Wow, no, that sounds like some... Until next time, keep hobbying. Cheers.
Don't forget to head on over to My Mini Factory and check out Ian's campaign there. Ian Lovecraft on My Mini Factory, and he is running the Feywood campaign right now. Get over there and check it out. The models will be phenomenal.